And I'm mortified. I'm so embarrassed. And good, because I don't want to feel that embarrassment anymore so much that I have no choice but to heal. You are growing personally and you are maturing. That means you are starting to be able to handle the situations better. And that growth that you have within you is either going to allow you to be able to go, however my partner is, that's his responsibility. If he wants to act like that, he's welcome to. I'm going to go in the other room and I'm going to go do my thing. Like, you're able to separate from it and kind of say, like, your triggers are not my responsibility. I'm out. And not out of the marriage, but like, I can walk away and I can stay in my truth and stay in my peace. And you can still find your peace and your center, even in a kind of crappy situation. Or like, he can be inspired by it and he can start growing, or you can grow so much that you leave and then you find a partner who's actually at the growth and maturity level that you're at. But I don't really actually see a losing option in doing the work and growing.
Yeah, I mean, growth.
It's a choose your hard.
Yeah, and personal growth is just the mission. Literally, I would define it as maturity. Like healing to me is maturing. You know, like you're healing your arrested development. If you think of what healing is on a base level and personal growth, emotional maturity, like they all are interchangeable words to me. I don't really, personal development to me is healing, you know? Because what you're doing is you're expanding your capacity and depth as a human being to understand others and connect with others and all that. So like I'll break it down into a little bit easier terms to understand, but if you are arrested in development in a certain area of your life, like I'll share one of mine. I was really insecure when it comes to the thought of other men being attracted to you or you being attracted to other men. Like that was an insecurity of mine. And this played itself out in several relationships that I had previous to you and just my own arrested development as a child. There are key moments in my life when I was a younger boy where I was impacted by people around me that caused me to have a wound inside of me, like an emotional wound. You call it arrested development, call it emotional wound, like they're all interchangeable words to me. Lack of maturity, whatever. So as an adult, I was acting like a 12-year-old boy or a 10-year-old boy when these wounds were triggered. And so that's just arrested development. This can happen in any area of your life. It can be over. For me, another one of mine was time when you were running late or the girls are running late for specifically to get to school or work in the morning, because that was such a pain point for me as a child that I would get really triggered. Like my body remembered these experiences. So then this is, trauma, arrested development, all to me the same thing. It's just a moment in time. Your body remembers your experience. Of course, that's literally the difference between me and you is not just male and female, but our experience, our life experience. That's why we have different personalities and we're shaped by how we experience the world. So I was arrested in development as a kid, and then now as an adult having these issues that are affecting my relationship. So healing these are important for us growing up and maturing to be 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old. You don't want to be a 60-year-old still dealing with issues that were from your trauma when you were 12. If your partner isn't into personal growth or isn't into maturing, you now have a partner that is not going to change or mature the rest of their life unless they do some work, right?
Here's how I would put it, kind of my little hot take. And I would say probably through the lens of like when I think of how I've healed the most, it's been through my triggers. And that's why we celebrate when we get triggered, which used to really piss me off. He'd be like, "Oh, you're triggered. Let's celebrate." And I'd be like, "Rrr." But that's besides the
I
point.
wouldn't like bust out a cake or like
It
pour
was
the
like a little
champagne.
bit short of that. Sometimes you would full on put your hands in the air and be like, "Yeah!"
We
I'm like,
found
and
it.
I'd be like wanting to hit you. But anyways, I am passionate about talking about triggers because for me, they have been the key of where so much of my healing has come from, because they reveal the parts that need to be healed. Because when we get triggered, that what comes out of us is the reaction that we would have at the time that we were wounded from, like, where that trigger is coming from. And so if we're talking about when you were, your time trigger from your childhood, the 5-year-old in you might be coming out and your reaction is that of a 5-year-old, right? And so when we talk about healing, like, you're arrested in development to that age of 5 years old in that area. And so now we've got awareness of this, right? And that's when we can actually go in and do that work to start healing and feeling those feelings and rewiring our brains to handle the situation differently. And not only that, what comes from your trigger is what comes from my triggers is where I found all of my limiting beliefs. When I'm triggered, they just come out of the woodworks and I just start massively writing them down. And so then I've got awareness of, like, okay, I have all these either core beliefs or limited beliefs, a little bit of both most of the time. And I can go, do I want to believe this? Do I actually think this is true? Because my subconscious thinks this is true and I'm acting as this is my truth, but it's really just a limited belief that isn't true. That can be something like, I'm not good enough. That can be a core belief that you hold. And when you hold that, you keep yourself back from all these opportunities in your life. And so without triggers, it's kind of hard to find all of these nuggets that you can use to grow. So you get triggered, you figure out where you're arrested in development from, you figure out what you need to heal, you figure out what your limiting beliefs are. You also figure out your negative self-talk. What's that talk track in your mind when you're triggered? What's it saying? A lot of the times mine is like a shame spiral of all these negative things about myself that if I told them out loud to you, you would be like, I can't believe that. Holy, like, and you'd be like, you're way off. And I'm like, yeah, that's the talk track. My triggers is what allows me to see the talk track. And when you can see the talk track, you can begin to go, whoa, I got some rewiring I need to do. And you can flip the script on that talk track and you can start getting your brain to believe what is true, what is good, what God wants you to believe about yourself, what He believes about you. So through your triggers, that's where the healing journey started for me. And I think that will always be the crux of how I talk about healing, because those are the most telling moments and they suck. Like, they totally suck. I look back at the times that I've reacted from my triggers and my wounds and I'm mortified. I'm so embarrassed. And good.
Yeah.
Good. Because I don't want to feel that embarrassment anymore so much that I have no choice but to heal.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Like, that moment is in time is the difference between someone that will mature and someone that won't. Is that split second decision when you are triggered and you feel your nervous system react to a situation and you want to become self-aware and dissect it from like a standpoint of maturity and correct your body.